Hey all. So really excited about this war because as you can see, I'm bringing in Hulkling. This is the first time I've ever gotten to use him. Now, I definitely could have used my rank 4 Nimrod here, and it's even arguable that I should have, but basically what I was going with is that with insult to injury, making it possible for parries to fail, Hulkling tends to function more by attacking and can break through block with unblockable. Nimrod functions a little bit more on his ramp up by defending, by parrying for those armors, and sometimes the Immortal Abomination fight can be a little bit annoying with Nimrod because you don't get enough armors to really stack the damage, and I didn't really want to deal with that. Now, one thing that I definitely should have done in this fight is that I should have just baited out the special ones. I was being impatient and I was underestimating that passive fury because the block damage sucked, honestly. And like he's doing great, but I was kind of hoping that special 2 would have crit so I didn't have to block another special 2. Well, it's fine. But yeah, he's just doing great. I mean, he's poison immune, that's the obvious part. And then beyond that, he's just so simple to use, right? Like, there are nuances to him that I don't think I'm capturing in this fight, but basically, you hit the opponent a bunch of times, and then you just make sure that you're ready to go unblockable right before your special 2. At his core, he just delivers. Really, really fun champion to use. And an amazing combination of immunities. We'll come back to that later. Now, this America Chavez, some of you may be looking at my team and going, DLL doesn't have a counter to this node. And you would be right. Don't do this. Don't ever do this. Basically, we had somebody in London. It was an incredibly busy day. By the time assignments got done, they just had to go to bed. It is what it is sometimes. And because we are not pushing this war, it, in my opinion, didn't make sense to completely redesign things, to move people around. So I was just like, you know what, guys, I can take it with Reed. And what you're about to see is basically what I expected. Because without Defiance, there's a fair amount of power gain here. You're just, at some point, you're going to have to dex her. And you're going to have to deal with the Mystic Dispersion because you don't really have a way to control her power with Reed because she's going to keep going debuff immune. Also, it's America Chavez, and she is incredibly rude with her heavies. So she went into the negative zone there. Her special 2 would have been unblockable. I baited out that last heavy so that I could intentionally proc the Utopian Parallel and push her red. Because as much as I know this is going to hurt, this is also Reed, and I was pretty sure I would survive. Because you got that big, chunky 50% weakness on special 3s. Now, missing that evade there definitely hurt, and all of this reverb damage we're taking now definitely hurts, because again, this is not a good matchup. I'm just going to keep saying that. And actually, you know what? I misspoke earlier, because she was still debuff immune when she threw her special 3, so that was how much damage it did without any weaknesses. So yeah, Reed's just tanky. This just in, more at 11. Anyway, managed to knock her down with a heavy, remove the protection, get the Fury up. Now, because we baited those 3 special ones right at the start of the fight, I figured that was paramount to me having any chance of winning this. We're going to get a Fury off of this special 3, even though we don't have any true debuffs on her. Our power gain is really helping us out. The House of X pre-fight was absolutely essential, and we do end up soloing, losing only 60% of our health. Most of it to a special 3 and then a good chunk to reverb. Again, before we move on, don't take that fight. It's a terrible idea, but it worked out for us with scheduling. I was pretty confident Reed could do it, and I was right. So, I'm really, really glad I wasn't wrong. What an awesome champion. Anyways, moving on to the real reason I brought Hulkling. So this is, in my opinion, one of the more difficult fights on the current war map, a rank 4 Nick Fury on node 24, the Aspect of Evolution mini-boss. Major challenges of this node are that EMP modification itself is going to shock most characters. Just dexing drains your power, makes it very difficult to get specials off. Even if you don't dex, even if you don't lose your buffs and get power drained, you often have your combat power rate slowed to a crawl, and meanwhile, because it's Aspect of Evolution, your opponent is just getting scarier and scarier. Hulkling gets around pretty much all of this. He's shock immune, so you don't have to worry about EMP mod. He is immune to power drain, so you don't have to worry about that part of Burden of Might. And he is almost immune to the other part of Burden of Might because he has ability power rate in his kit as well as combat power rate. He doesn't only gain power by landing hits, he also gains power every time he gains a buff from converting his shapeshift charges, which is why we're able to do this. Now, I did throw on power backs here because I didn't want to die. This was my first time using Hulkling in war ever, and I just wanted to be a little safer. Pretty proud of that right there, where I managed to block the first hit of the special one, dex the next two, and then block the next hit for the next little trio of bombardment. I don't know that I would be able to do that every time, but it was extremely helpful. So anyway, Hulkling just crushes this. There's definitely skill involved here because he's not bleed immune. Nick does go unblockable. As you saw, Bubble Shield is still a factor. There were a number of things that I did intentionally duel for. But basically, ignoring Burden of Might and being immune to shock, and being able to ramp through block just makes him so good for that. Because that's often something that is difficult in a Nick Fury fight, is to really control your spacing, his power, all those kinds of things. You often end up with Nick blocking a fair amount of the time. And the fact that that just is something Hulkling is happy to see is so nice. Again, first time I've ever brought him to war, I brought him explicitly for that purpose. That was an unduped rank 3 against a rank 4, and he was perfect. I am a little bit in love. But anyway, let's move on to the rest of the war for now. This is a solid placement for Weapon X. Takes out some of his best counters, but it definitely does not stop Nimrod. Because, as we'll see, Nimrod is functionally immune to disorient between his high armor value and his immunity to ability accuracy modification. And he's almost immune to strike counter, as we'll see here. So, the way that Nimrod often gets played is just as a pure nuke that does nothing but throw special 2s with power backs. But as I've often said, that's really not necessary. You can play him with more nuance. And so I am playing the strike counter node here. I am counting my hits. I am throwing in heavies even while he's unblockable. And I threw 2 back-to-back special 1s. We've made a ton of progress here because of all those regens and our high attack values, the active shocks, but we haven't thrown a special 2, which is normally Nimrod's big gun. But because we've thrown 2 special 1s in Eradicate and gotten those massive energizes, we still got to a special 2 to close out the fight without ever breaking strike counter. I think I did throw 1 extra medium instead of a light early on, so there was 1 charge there, but that was just a textbook showcase of Nimrod's SIG ability. If anyone ever says it's not that powerful, send them that fight. I love how cleanly he handles that. So moving on to Hit Monkey, and this is going to be a fairly simple one. I still have the power back boosts running from the Nick fight, but Hulkling kind of has a similar advantage to Nimrod here. Just as on that Nick fight, he was gaining power from converting his charges and not just from landing hits, we're going to run into the same thing here, which is going to allow us to easily gain a bar of power. If that was all we were focusing on, then we could play strike counter with zero problems. But the other thing that it's going to do here is that notice we haven't exhausted any of our charges, and we're almost at 2 bars. So I back off to let our charges build a little bit. I hit into his block to convert another charge to get that last little bit. And when I throw the special 2, it almost ends the fight by itself, but also it gives us all that power back because of power backs. But the part that I really want to focus on is how easily we got to the first special 2. No power start necessary. We just played the node and we were already there. So even without power backs, we could have just done that again and easily thrown another special 2 without ever giving Hitmonkey more block penetration charges. Additionally, because Hulkling plays so well by hitting into block, we don't really have to worry about the disorient. There's just so many ways in which this character is different from a lot of others that lets them play around the way nodes often work. I love all the little nuances in his kit. I really think that I'm going to end up taking him to war a lot more in the future. And I'm sure he's going to go to rank 4 at some point. Teddy has really, really impressed me thus far. And now for the one where I was seriously concerned about dying, because this is a rank 4 Mangog. I did heal up Reed a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. After that Chavez fight, I just gave him a couple tier 3 war potions that I've been stocking up, but I also did use an advanced power boost because I have one expiring. This is still going to be difficult. Notice I did not use power back boosts, which is what I would normally do in season, and so we are a long way from another special 2, and even from another special 1. Now, the good news is he's being pretty generous with these special 1s, which is helped because of how many heavies we're throwing. Knocking down does tend to get the AI a little more willing to throw, but now we're in a little bit of a tough spot, because I've realized my power isn't lining up properly for me to get back to another special if he throws 2 special 1s in a row. And I did think that he was going to come in, but I just kind of panicked, threw the special 2 into his block, and then I panic again, hesitate to throw the heavy, and almost lose the entire fight right there by losing my ramp. That would have been catastrophic. Anyway, then I throw the special 1, and I feel like I've got this back under control. Except he doesn't throw the special 1 while we still have the stagger up. So that's not good. I was hoping to get him to come in and parry, but I dropped my block for too long. That was a mistake. I did get rid of the unblockable there, but not the unstoppable, and I panicked again. That was very dumb. I just should have waited for him to come in, because that's the thing, is I should have recognized the strength of what I did. I did get rid of his unblockable, which means that if he had come in, I could have parried him, even while he was unstoppable. And I could have probably gotten to a special 1, thrown it into him, and knocked him down and refreshed the debuffs. But I did not do that, so rather than risk the special 2, I just pushed him straight to the special 3, even without an invulnerability, knowing that Reed was probably going to survive. Because unlike the Chavez fight, this time we did have those weaknesses helping us out. Obviously getting hit is a great way to gain power, and then we just close it out with a special 2. So, bit of a tough fight, but I honestly think that unless you have Quicksilver, that fight is just going to be a little tough this season, with no Defiance and with Spider-Man 2099 banned. So I don't feel bad about that one. Yeah. That was kind of an important test for me, to see if Reed could take a rank 4 Mangog there without Defiance. I was pretty confident in it. I made multiple mistakes and still came out the other side. So I do think it's still one of the best assignments, but you do have to be comfortable with Reed. And I do think that powerbacks are actually helpful. Like, powerbacks are almost never helpful for Reed, but they were there. And I did miss them. I've used them before, and I missed them this time. I think I will be using them next season when we are pushing again. And you really have to pay attention to where your specials are. And I think next time, if I take that again without power backs, I'm going to throw a single special one, and then I'm going to, or a single special two, and then I'm going to spam special ones to keep the stagger up until he goes into his berserk rage. Then I can go to the next special two, which is what I've done in the past, and I should have stuck to that plan a little bit better here. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this war. Couple very tough fights for Reed and Hulkling's war debut. Really, really happy that I got him, that I ranked him instantly. He has already proven his worth. I'm very impressed with this champion. He doesn't feel overpowered to me. I just have to go ahead and say that. But he does feel very, very useful and relevant in war. And that just makes me extremely happy. So, I'll see y'all in the next one, and until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.